Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. Hello, everybody, and welcome to 2021. This is the first show of the Bitcoin all-time high, and I'm very happy to be talking with Edan from Sovryn BTC. We've known each other for a long time, and to also bring it to the trifecta with Josh from Voltoro. So happy New Year, guys. Bitcoin's at an all-time high. What's up?
All right, and happy birthday, Bitcoin, as well. It's 12 years old.
That's a very good present, it sounds like to me. So Edan, you are coming to us from Britain, but when you and I first met, I believe it was actually at the Latin American Bitcoin conference in Buenos Aires when Bitcoin had its first all-time high, when it was around $1,000 in January of 2013. I guess every time Bitcoin goes higher, it's an all-time high for that moment.
I suppose there was a time when 10 cents was its first all-time high. I think we did meet in Buenos Aires. I wasn't sure if we had met in Buenos Aires or in the San Jose conference, but yes.
I didn't get to go to San Jose. Everybody was talking about it, and I remember at the time thinking, wow, like I'm so behind. I'm never going to catch up and be a real OG. And now I'm back, and now I have the full OG status.
Well, if you got in before the first halving, I think you're a full OG. And then if you got in before the second halving, you're OG.
If I got in 2012, what does that make me?
So first halving was 2012.
All right, good. All right.
So, I think we can all determine that whoever's in it now is still kind of, even Michael Saylor, who's for me a freshman, somehow has this energy of what we used to all have, right? And we still all have, but this kind of like wow, and this passion that oozes from him when he talks, and I think wow, he's saying pretty much all the stuff we've said for the last 9 years, but it's great hearing it from people coming from these old school institutions now. So that's kind of cool.
Absolutely, it's been it's been a very interesting ride. I can't think of any other way I would have spent the last 10 years of my life, which would have been more interesting. There are way more less stressful ways to have spent the last decade, but this was great, and I met such interesting people along the way.
Yeah, could you tell us a little bit about your background? Because I don't know what you were doing before Bitcoin, right? And then, you've been involved in a number of different projects. And then we could talk about what's going on with Sovryn BTC, which is its own thing. But like, how did you get here? How do we all get here?
Well, I, about 11 years ago, was sitting in the basement of the biology department at Carnegie Mellon, where we had a tiny little office with a little coffee machine for the startup that we had started, based on some technology that had been developed at Carnegie Mellon. And so my background was in neuroscience, and I was working on applying machine learning techniques to better diagnostic, to create better diagnostic tools for diseases. So, I walked into this massive building, just granite. You walk down the stairwell into this dark, damp place on a freezing blizzard Pittsburgh day, and I got my coffee out, and I started reading through doing what I did every morning, which is read through papers about network science. And I came across this one paper, which was called Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer cryptocurrency, or something along those lines. It was obscure, and I started reading it. And by the end of it, I had spilled coffee all over my laptop. I had emailed everyone I knew, telling them that they had to get into this, and it completely destroyed every life plan that I had, because I basically dropped everything within a few months and was all in on Bitcoin, and have been ever since. And the reason is, I think I have a pretty I had like the perfect background for getting into Bitcoin. On the one hand, this interest in network science. On the other hand, this interest in, persuasion and memes and neuroscience. And then the third thing is, when I was a young kid, I grew up in a family of anarchists and revolutionaries, and who had basically been involved in every single major way of upsetting governments through the early part of the 20th century. And when I was between the ages of 9 and 11, I became a gold smuggler, because part of my family was forced to flee South Africa because they were associated with the ANC, and the apartheid government had designated them as terrorists. I laugh now, but it wasn't funny at the time. So we needed to give money to them, and the only way to do it was my mother would take Kruger rands, which are these gold coins, and sew them into my coat and send me alone to fly overseas because they wouldn't search kids. So, like when I came across the Satoshi white paper, it was like an obvious thing for me, which I think is not the experience that most people have had. Certainly not most people in the West, who maybe with the exception of the last few years, but 10 years ago, people didn't feel like the West was about to collapse. Now, but I think, for me, it was, I remember doing a quick calculation, and I was thinking, there's no way the people aren't going to use this. Like, anyone involved in the drug cartels is going to use it. Anyone who needs to flee from any country. I remember thinking to myself, this is going to have a market cap of $1 billion soon. And so I had to get in.
That was a good call.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had a similar thing with the smuggling. My father was in East Berlin and my mother in West Berlin, and just across the wall with like cigarettes and stuff in the pram, West cigarettes and Western magazines and stuff to bring over to the East, to the communist side, to give to my father, so that they were all artists and intellectuals, so they were, the state didn't like them. But they like to read the West magazines and smoke West cigarettes. Yeah, not as cool as Kruger rands, but still.
I have this really cool fur hat that I got from my great grandfather, who appeared one day at the back of a police car in front of my grandfather's house, and the police brought him in because he was a very annoying person, in that he had strong beliefs, and to get some peace, my grandfather had given him some money to go see the family in England. They were living in South Africa at the time. Anyway, a week later, 2 weeks later, he arrives back at the house in the back of this police car, and the police bring him in, and they say he's been deported from Soviet Russia, because he was handing out communist materials, communist pamphlets that were so communist that the Soviet government considered them inflammatory. And all he came back with was this fur hat, which I now have.
Well, we could all be headed toward communism right now. What do you guys think what do you think of this whole world? Like, when I think about growing up in Poland and hearing about communist times, hearing about the Nazis, hearing about, what went on there, I was very surprised to see that this would happen in our world. Do you think that we're headed for better times? Because there are some indications that things are on the up and up. Clearly for us, things are on the up and up. But for the rest of the world, not so much. So it could go full totalitarian, or it could go, full freedom and security and privacy and stuff. Like, where do you think that we're headed right now? Are we at the precipice? Is it decided? Is it good or evil? Or am I looking at like a child?
I think we're absolutely at the precipice, and everyone is scared because they think that what's going to happen is if they jump off the precipice, or rather what's really going to happen is they get pushed off the precipice, they're going to fall. But what's really going to happen is they're going to fly. I think it's darkest before the dawn. We've gone through 30 years of stagnation in the West, culturally, scientifically, technologically, economically, and politically. Our old institutions have lost their legitimacy. Nobody trusts the banks. Nobody trusts politicians. Nobody trusts the media. All of the core pillars of our society have forgotten their purpose. And things for anyone who's reliant on those institutions, expecting those institutions to ride in like the cavalry and save the day for them, and who are part of those institutions are going to go through a world of pain right now. But it's going to be a great cleansing. And I think we should all be extremely optimistic. I think we are going to see a rebirth, a renewal, a reconstruction. You know, hard times make strong men, and strong men, are what is required. It is the coming together of people who have gone through hard times that renew society again and again and again. And so what I think is we're going to renew all of our institutions with the best, most advanced technology that has ever been developed for creating trustless, transparent, incorruptible human institutions and coordination mechanisms, which is blockchain. I think we're going to have the world's most advanced ever sound money, which is going to discipline our financial behavior and our political behavior. I think science is about to make huge leaps and bounds, especially as the institutions of academia and politics can interfere less. But what we're going to see in the world of genomics, what we're going to see with rocket ships, what we're going to see with AI, what we're going to see with electrification of cars, what we're going to see with cryptocurrencies, are all going to be massive changes. Like, you know, it's not going to be 20 years of slightly better apps. It's going to be the future we've always, imagined in sci-fi is going to happen over the next 20 years. I am extremely optimistic about what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree on a lot of those points, but at the same time, I feel like humanity is at this point where we are so fearful as a whole, the mainstream, that we're allowing ourselves to be monitored and surveilled to the nth degree, and especially now that COVID sort of tipped us over the edge, where a lot of the workforce is being now surveilled to like mouse clicks. You know, the boss would normally be like, oh, you're working in the office, but now they have software to watch exactly, take screen grabs of you, take screen grabs of your camera. And not only that, we're surveilling ourselves with our Apple watches and oh, how many steps have I done today? And all this sort of stuff is also like this surveillance and controlling yourself down to what sort of heartbeats am I doing? It's kind of like you're removing your own humanity and just being this sort of living for the watch to tell you exactly, have you stood up 5 times today? And it seems like we're moving towards this sort of technocratic self-surveillance and allowing to surveil. So I think there's one way, which is the beautiful optimism that you've just outlined through technology, but there's this other side, which is fairly dark, that if we don't get over our fears to say, hey, we are humans, we are free, we are liberated from ourselves, and anarchy isn't a state of total darkness, but it is the freedom that we all enjoy and understand when we meet a lover or something like that, is that we can embrace that instead of fearing it, and stop the obsession with surveillance and control and micromanagement that technology enables.
I agree with you. I think human beings, by and large, are mimetic creatures. They have mimetic desires, which is to say that people choose their desires not based on what they want. They kind of figure out what they want based on what everyone else wants, and then they try to want the same thing. They try to figure out their opinions not based on the truth, but based on what they think everyone else says is the truth, and then they adopt that as their opinion. And that's the cause of what we see, all of this tribalism, all of this, the fact that, all resources are always scarce because people always want the same resources because they're basically copying other people's desires. And so the question is, who is going to be generating the desires of the next 20 years, right? Because there in such a society, there are the people who have more influence. And I think it's you, right? It's the people who are creating podcasts like this. I think it's the people who are building products. And I think that if we build the type of products that that the people in the know, right, the people who do make decisions for themselves, aspire to have, then everyone else will follow, because those people are ultimately the tastemakers. So right now, there is no alternative to surveillance. But even within the Bitcoin space, there's no alternative to surveillance. And what do I mean by that? Almost every single person who's got Bitcoin, which is this amazing tool where you can have monetary sovereignty, you have self-control and privacy of your transactions, right? The first thing they do is they put those Bitcoin onto an exchange, because the only way you can use your Bitcoin is to put them onto a centralized service today. So what we're working on is building Sovryn, which is expanding the sovereignty, the decentralization, the permissionless, uncensored system, which is Bitcoin, to encompass the financial realm and ultimately the economic realm, creating an exchange, a lending platform, a leverage platform, an options platform, a futures platform that is backed by Bitcoin, uses Bitcoin as its native currency, expands upon Bitcoin, and basically means that nobody ever needs to use a centralized exchange again. So that means that they don't need to be surveilled anymore. And at the same time, there are other people who are building like IPFS, or who are building social networks. And as everyone ends up having a wallet, right, a cryptographic wallet, and they will need one, because basically every person, under the age of 45 will very soon have cryptocurrency. Everyone will have their own private key. There'll be ways for people to start building products which leverage that infrastructure which has been built out for cryptocurrencies in order to provide public-private key type security to any service you can imagine. And once it exists, and the people who are like you and me, who are thoughtful about what it is that we want, choose those services, I think the rest of humanity will follow.
Can I ask you guys something? So, all right, I've been in crypto for a long time, and I borrowed some money from my girlfriend. I need to send her back Tether or Ethereum, right? And I signed up for this service, for this other service. Finally, I'm Kraken, right? They're cool, those guys. So I signed up for Kraken. And then, if I want to buy it with USD, then I have to go through another platform. And here we are, it's Bitcoin's 12th birthday, and I still want to blow my brains out trying to get these currencies, because if I want to send her Ethereum that I buy through Coinbase, it's going to take 5 days until I can move that money. And then I have the first in, first out nonsense, which is, so if I send my friend that same exact Ethereum, am I going to pay cap gains on that if it went up, right? Or am I going to pay cap gains on a random Ether that I bought in God knows when, and it was like $17 or something? I don't even remember that I bought it. How am I even supposed to report that? So, that's a real drag. But all of these companies that are very privacy minded are basically being bullied into it, because the government's saying, well, we can't control Bitcoin, but we can cut all your balls off. And now I essentially can't even send my friend cryptocurrency without incurring some kind of huge, annoying taxable event. Or maybe I can go out to the bank and I could pull out some money, and then I could find some rando, and then maybe I could exchange it there. I mean, this is still lame. What are we doing here, guys? Can we make it a little bit better? Or are we doomed? Because, right, like if I was government, I'd be like, screw these guys. They're trying to compete with me. I'm going to make their life as miserable as possible,
Absolutely. And that's exactly what's going to happen. They're slowly, they're going to boil the frog slowly. So first, the exchanges have to do KYC. Then they're not allowed to allow people to transfer funds to their wallets without proving that the wallets belong to them. Then they can't transfer funds to their wallets at all. Then, they've got you by the balls. Now your cryptocurrency is trapped within their ecosystem, and they can make up the rules 100%. So we have to get off of those systems. And the only way we can wean ourselves off of those systems is by having an alternative, which is why decentralized finance, and projects like Sovryn are so exciting. And the reason we're working on Sovryn is because it brings DeFi not just to the Ethereum world, but to the entire world, and in particular to the largest asset class in the cryptocurrency world, which is Bitcoin, and which I think is effectively the reserve currency of the future. Now, I think these systems are becoming so much better that they're going to soon become easier to use, more fun to use than centralized services, right? Because you don't have to go through all of the nonsense of KYC, because you can use any wallet, because it's frictionless, because it's seamless. And that's difficult. Like, there's a huge amount of infrastructure that we need to build out. There's layer 2, there's interoperable wallets, there's bridges, and there's now thousands, tens of thousands of really, really smart people who are working on building out all of this infrastructure. So that's extremely exciting. As for Kraken and Coinbase and all of these things, people shouldn't be using them. That it's like, buying Bitcoin and then sending it to Kraken or Coinbase or Binance is kind of like getting a gym membership and then paying someone else to go work out for you.
Solve my problem then. How do I send my friend this money? What do I do? I don't want to send her PayPal.
Go to sovryn.app.
Well, isn't that convenient?
And exactly, it's convenient. That's why we're building it.
I didn't even try to set you up for this. It just made itself.
Let's talk about Sovryn. How does it work? It's a decentralized exchange. Is it using the Lightning Network, or how is it layer 2? How the heck are you doing decentralized finance on Bitcoin?
Yeah, so it's layer 2. It's built on a system which I think the guy who's primarily behind it, who really deserves the credit, is Sergio Lerner. Has built a sidechain for Bitcoin, or sidechain technology for Bitcoin, which allows merge mining with Bitcoin miners. So basically EVM or Ethereum type smart contracts, which use Bitcoin as their native currency and are backed by Bitcoin proof of work. And what we're doing with Sovryn is we're taking that technology, we are adding to it rollups, which allow for extremely low cost transactions and very high transaction throughput with the same security assumptions. Basically, it rolls up to the security assumptions of the underlying chain, so in this case, Bitcoin. And a very, very tight bridge built with zero knowledge proofs to Ethereum. So we basically become kind of like a sidechain to Bitcoin and the Bitcoin's shard for Ethereum, bringing together these two most important worlds of the cryptocurrency space, and we'll ultimately integrate with Litecoin, Polkadot, Cosmos, everything, right? And then on top of this, what we're basically building out is a full stack open source financial operating system. So we've got the basic primitives. So basically everything you want to do in finance is based on the primitives of payments, trades, or loans. And on top of that, using those and conditional transactions, right? And on top of that, you can build anything you want: derivatives, options, leverage trades, margin trades, perpetual swaps, everything. And a lot of this we've already built out. So if you think about it, kind of like the Apple Macintosh for DeFi in a way, right? It's like tightly integrated. It all just works. You've already got swaps, loans, flash loans, leverage trading, all integrated into that. We're introducing stablecoins, Bitcoin-backed stablecoins, so you never have to sell your Bitcoin ever again. You can make your payment to your friend, take your Bitcoin. You don't even have to sell it. You don't even have to send it to her. You just take it. You use it to generate a loan for yourself of dollars, like of a Bitcoin-backed stablecoin. You just send that to her. You do this totally pseudonymously. You do it totally through self-custody. You never need to give anyone else control of your keys. And I think that this is the future of not just finance for us, but finance globally, because it's borderless, it's permissionless, anyone can build in it. And so it will have just deeper liquidity than any centralized institution could ever have.
Amazing. So what sort of collateralization are the loans requesting?
So there are two kinds of loans. There's collateralized loans, which basically require right now 150%, well, depending on the asset, but on average 150% collateralization, or between, if it's Bitcoin, for example, it's 75% loan to value. If other things are 60% loan to value. And then there's also uncollateralized lending, which currently only exists in the form of flash loans, but can also become, sort of like social proof and reputation-based lending in the future.
So for the folks that don't know what a flash loan is, it's basically a loan against a small amount of collateral that you get, and it executes a command and then comes back and pays itself off within seconds, right?
Well, actually, it's zero collateral, but you have to pay back the loan within the same transaction that you made it, which, unless you have a sense of how blocks and smart contracts work, is a very mind-bending concept. But it's like you take out the loan and pay it back at the same time. But in the meantime, in a parallel universe, you manage to do all kinds of stuff with the money. I don't know if we should get into that right now, but people who know what it is know what it is.
It's pretty wacky.
So it seems like a lot of people are doing these crypto loans, right? And I like it. I'm down with crypto loans, but isn't that a little bit like fractional reserve lending? And I mean, isn't that not really what we're supposed to be doing? Didn't that get us into this problem in the first place? Like, we're basically accumulating credit with money that's supposed to be, debt free to a certain extent. Are we going down a slippery slope? What's going to happen?
So you know what the exact opposite of fractional reserve is?
Mm-hmm.
It's over collateralization.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing, right? So there's more equity than debt. In the world that we live in the fiat world, everything is debt. There is no equity.
Well, but unless the Bitcoin price goes down. The
money's made up and the points don't matter, right?
Right, but if the Bitcoin price goes down, that's when, then we're screwed, right? So isn't that bad?
Well, I mean, look, if the price of Bitcoin goes down, then yes, you're screwed, because you should.
Unless you
we're
fill
a
up
bunch
more
of gamblers, man. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Just because there are risks doesn't mean we're gamblers. There is no life without risk.
You're very
but we are very because I'm right. Look, there are degens who are pure gamblers, right? But you've been in this space now for 8 years. You're not gambling. You're committed. That's different.
I'm informed, right? Is what I am.
So I, for instance, just recently bought a car, and with that, but I bought it by basically giving myself a loan, but it was on the Ethereum blockchain.
Yeah.
We're using the Maker protocol. This is amazing for a whole bunch of reasons. So, Tatiana, your thing of the capital gains, for instance, if you were to give yourself a loan, there is no capital gains because you haven't sold. You have got a loan.
Right. But when I redo that loan, right, let's say I'm doing a collateralized loan and I'm paying $1,000 for $10,000 loan, right? Sure, I'm not getting my cap gains, but every time that comes up, I have to pay them more money every time to renew the loan.
You can't do 1,000. You have to put like 2,000 down.
You're not understanding what I'm saying. I'm saying I'm getting $10,000 back for my loan, right? And I'm paying $1,000 for the loan. I'm giving them, let's say, $13,000 or something, right?
Yeah. So think of it this way, right? Like, maybe the cost of the loan. What's the interest you're paying?
I don't know.
Let's call it 6% a year, right? Something like that, right? So you're paying 6% a year. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is appreciating on average 100% a year. So you're paying out a little bit of the gains, right? In order to make sure that you never have to sell your Bitcoin.
Right, but we're kicking the can down the road by paying that. You know what I'm saying? Because eventually, don't we have to pay the cap gains?
We're not kicking the can down the road. And the reason we're not kicking the can down the road is because Bitcoin is going to continue to appreciate forever. And the reason Bitcoin is going to continue to appreciate forever is because Bitcoin is limited, but human ingenuity is not. And we will continue to grow the economy forever. And so you take the entire global economy, you divide it by 21 million Bitcoin, that number just keeps going up.
I don't know, guys. I feel
Yeah.
like you're trying to sell me something on like the corner or at the mall.
I'm trying to sell you your sovereignty. I'm trying to tell you, you don't need centralized services. You don't need dollars that are run by central banks. You don't need to pay the IRS anything because you can be in debt to yourself. This is
I'd
amazing.
rather be in debt to
What I'm
myself.
trying
It is
to
amazing.
sell. Yes, exactly. This is being in debt
fundamentally
to
amazing.
yourself.
No, but here's the problem. Okay, so this is what I learned when you do a crypto loan. You can do a loan, right? And then instead of paying your bills like you got the loan for, you think to yourself, but I could also just buy more Bitcoin, right? And then you become an animal and you keep doing it, right? But again, you guys are zealots and I'm with you. But for example, when I was saying it's going to keep going up when it was, 2017 and 2018, it did go down. I did get wrecked. We can't completely ignore that. So I'm thinking that we're adopting this just not a very good fiscal responsibility. To a certain extent, I do like it. I think it's a smart method, but I think it's a slippery slope because I had credit card debt when I was like younger or whatever. And then I don't know, next thing you know, I had all this debt and I didn't know how to pay it off. And how are we?
But guess what? Guess what?
Guys
This
are
is what
terrible.
humanity is being shielded so much from this stuff. Like what people will happen, what will happen is people will go leveraged long. That's effectively what's happening. And one day there'll be a massive collapse in the Bitcoin price, like it does. It does its little pop. A whole bunch of people we wrecked, and next time they'll be a little bit more clued into the fact of what risk actually looks like. And this is a shitty moment. You'll probably even have some suicides. There's all sorts of terrible stuff that happens when people that don't understand risk. But you have the vast majority of people go, "Ooh, that hurt. I won't do that again," or I'll do it a bit.
I'm doing
more
it again
responsible.
right now.
Right now,
I'm at the peak of Bitcoin, and all I'm thinking about is how much I want to buy more. You guys are like living in this fantasy world. And
Right.
also, just a couple suicides. I mean, they'll learn their lesson when they hit the pavement. I mean, are you kidding me?
No, look, you can't protect people from themselves. And this is where this society is obsessed with de-risking. The government de-risk everything. Don't let people gamble. Make that illegal. Make this illegal. Make that. You have to have a license for this. You have to. And what happens? People are so stupid now because they don't understand what risk looks like. So OneCoin can come along, and go, "Ooh, we're OneCoin. We're the best thing ever." BitConnect can come along. We're BitConnect, and people will fall for that crap because they've never understood what risk looks like. Because the government has obfuscated risk and made it illegal for everything. And now in crypto, it's such a wild west that the vast majority of OGs won't fall for a lot of scams because they've been scammed before. They understand what it now looks like, and their risk understanding is far better than what it used to be. And this is why shows like this and like many more are so important, because it educates the people of what risk looks like, how to go leverage long without being in a position where you could get wrecked, or how to prevent that. Hey, and teach people how to, hey, you know what? If you're leveraged long, make sure you have something left over, so you can add to that position if the price drops, or make sure you can pay that loan back in case the price drops. And these educational processes, whether people choose to listen to them or not, is up to them, but it's out there and people are talking about it. And it's really important that we don't think that freedom is something that we should stop because people might
I'm not advocating any government intervention. I'm just saying, like, our own personal responsibility is wavering here. And this reminds me of how people are like, well, you would lose weight if you would just eat vegetables and not drink and never eat like soda or whatever, right? And it's the right thing to do. But like a majority of people are like, because that's human nature. The same thing you could say to somebody, oh, well, they'll learn when they get wrecked. Lots of people are not learning this time. And I'm just saying human nature is very, it's kind of predictable in that way. And I find buying Bitcoin exciting.
I agree. I agree with both of you. I think there is a huge amount of risk. There is, in freedom, a substantial amount of responsibility, right? With great power comes great responsibility. If you're going to try to be free, there is a huge challenge ahead of you. And it's not a path that everyone is going to choose. Being free, there is no freedom unless you are free to make your own mistakes. And as a result, you will make mistakes and there will be no recourse for you. If you send a Bitcoin transaction and you send it to the wrong place, it's never coming back. There's no one for you to call, right, and ask for the money back. It's all on you. And this is a terrifying thing. It's scary, right? It requires thought. It requires caution. It requires consideration. It's called adulthood. Yeah. Taking responsibility for your life, being the master of your destiny. That's what adulthood, that is what maturity is. And as a society, I think that maturity and adulthood are scary. And it's not for everyone.
Okay, I can support that.
Yeah, I mean, you're free to choose a lover, right? And that's a total free market. No one tells you who to love. And a lot of people will fall in love with a total psycho. And it's a terrible thing, but you don't want to create government rules to say, okay, we need to vent everyone that is going to sleep together because, guys, there are violent individuals out there that have domestic violence. It's about having good parenting, having good education system, and understanding hey, you know what? This guy, when you met, he flips his lid pretty early on. You should probably leave him, or the other way around. This woman just slaps everyone. Maybe you shouldn't go out with the woman that just slaps everyone for no reason. So, in freedom, there is this the opportunity to totally get wrecked or to totally be in a beautiful relationship, and it's up to you about choosing that. And so I'm just backing up both.
All right. Well, listen, guys, don't over leverage yourself. I'm just saying I did it. And then I had had a taste of that. And I felt like I had a taste of cocaine or something. I was like, I need him now. So, and just be careful with these products. And, okay. So we're getting a little bit close to the end of the show, but the reason why we had Edan on originally, or what I was thinking, was he wanted to challenge somebody to a debate. And Josh is always giving me a lot of guff saying, we need more arguing on the show. And I'm somewhat of an arguer, but I don't really get passionate unless it's about Lady Gaga being, a blood eater or whatever, blood drinking Satanist. So what could we have Edan fight people about? Edan, do you want to go through your list of controversial positions? Because I had originally read them to Julia Taransky, who we had on to talk about the book that she contributed to Thank God for Bitcoin. But she unfortunately agreed with all of your positions.
Really? I find that hard to believe, but okay.
Yes. Pretty much all of them, yes. So she could not argue with you, but maybe we could find something. And Josh, do you want to debate him?
Yeah, sure.
You seem mild-mannered, but perhaps you have an inner shark ready to kill.
Yeah, well, I'm not very. I like to be prepared for debates, but all right.
Well,
all right. So what are your positions?
I have a lot of positions, so I don't know exactly which ones are the most controversial, but I can tell you something which I'm pretty sure will make people angry. So one opinion that I have is that Bitcoin maximalists make Bitcoin dumber. And what I mean by that is that Bitcoin requires adversarial thinking. And what has happened with a lot of maximalism is they ignore or dismiss what's happening in the rest of the crypto ecosystem. And as a result, they've been ignorant of DeFi. They are ignorant of layer 2 rollups and various scaling solutions. And as a result, Bitcoin isn't improving and progressing as fast as it can. I don't talk about Bitcoin code. The main chain doesn't ever need to change, but the ecosystem around it, we're still using centralized exchanges, which is horrible. It's terrible. It goes completely against the entire vision of Bitcoin and Satoshi. On the other hand, I don't think Ethereum is money or ever will be. I think Ethereum is a utility coin. I think it's the mother of all utility coins.
Yes, it's huge. It's a non-spam mechanism.
Yeah, so I think it has value, but I don't think it's anywhere near the center of gravity that the monetary system of crypto, which is Bitcoin, and to a different degree, stable coins are and will ever be. I think another thought that I've had, which is I've noticed a lot of people like and a lot of people hate, is I believe that the age of altcoins and their different layer one chains is coming to an end right fast. And I think that's happening because layer two is basically going to make the chain irrelevant, and instead is going to make the network effect center around the assets. And I think the two primary types of assets that are going to benefit from that are Bitcoin as the reserve asset for the current for the economy, and stable coins as the payment assets for the economy. And then
Should we just back up, because the first one I totally agree. Bitcoin maximalism is a ridiculous construct. I've always advocated for competition maximalism, which means have as many coins as you want and let them all compete. The notion that everything is a scam is totally ridiculous because it undermines real scams. It makes everyone think that, oh, look, if this person's calling Ethereum a scam, then OneCoin is, and they're calling OneCoin a scam as well, then Ethereum doesn't look like a scam, so OneCoin probably isn't either. And it screws that whole thing up. Scam is a scam, and projects that are trying new economic theory it is a theory, is something that's being tried out. But yeah, so I agree that we are. A lot of the Bitcoin maximalists are making Bitcoin suffer by not looking at some of the fascinating stuff that's happening in DeFi. I really, of course, there's a lot of total utter crap under the moniker of DeFi, under that sort of flag of DeFi, because that's sometimes you read some white paper and you just don't understand. It's just a nonsense, and it's basically people trying to create a coin. They don't even need to create a chain anymore. They just create a token on and say it does some amazing thing. And if you don't get it, well, you're too dumb and you're going to stay poor. And it's like, well, obviously it's a scam as well. So there's so many nuances in this whole thing. But yeah, competition maximalism is the way of the future. It's really important that we do look at interesting ways to scale the chain.
So I disagree with almost everything you've just said.
Guys, we got to save it for the next show. We can give them a little teaser, but I only want to see a couple squirts of blood. That's it.
Okay, cool. Well, no, basically, I don't disagree with everything you said, but for the purposes of excitement, I do disagree with your central tenet, which is that being a competition maximalist. I think the game's over. It's been won. There is no competition. Bitcoin is the reserve currency. Stablecoins are the payment rails until we get rid of fiat entirely. And everything else, which is trying to compete with those in their respective niche where they've won, is a waste of effort and is often a scam. I do think, however, and this is maybe the biggest thing that is being missed, is that there's a huge amount of value in tokenizing assets, which has nothing to do with coins. The Uniswap token, the compound token, right? They're kind of like virtual, like decentralized equity, right? They give you governance rights and revenue stream from this project, and it's a way of building an institution, like a business, without a corporation. Instead of being governed by courts of law in some country, it's governed by the blockchain itself and by code. I think that's a fantastic and phenomenal thing, and we need to have a little bit more nuance around our discussion of the assets. This crypto space is a multi-varied thing, and Uniswap and Ethereum, to the extent that they're competing with Bitcoin, are completely misguided efforts. But to the extent that they're creating something new and different, are very exciting, and we should be paying attention to them.
Yeah. I agree. And the interesting thing is, with a lot of the laws and the regulations that you were complaining about, Tatiana, that's holding you back from just simply paying your friend back, is actually causing people just to change the way that they're funding these businesses or structuring them. For instance, it's all about airdrops now and governance tokens, so that the governance token, a lot of the Howey test is that you can't profit from the work of others. So if you say, well, if you vote for this change or that change, then you've actually put work in, so this now doesn't fall under the Howey test. And so they're skirting around a lot of the regulations by creating different style of tokens, which we'll also see how regulators try to grapple with that. But yeah, it's very interesting. I absolutely agree that we have new funding models, new way of organizing people into creating amazing projects and decentralizing them. We're all working online. We're all working from around the world in different countries, and what this has really done a boom for is for open source projects to be able to fund themselves properly.
Well, we're going to have to wait until next few years to see how it's all going to pan out. I'm excited to try out Sovryn myself. I'm going to give it a shot.
Me too.
I really like you guys' artwork. I like the feel of that. I think it's really neat. So everybody should check you guys out. Are you doing any kind of panels or anything coming up that you want to announce? I mean, you guys had a couple announcements in the past couple of weeks. Before we load up here, is there anything else you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff going to be happening. Much of it we haven't announced, but January, I think, is going to be a pretty packed month. And by announced, it's like our community members decide when they want to tell people about what they've done. But there are people, like the number of people who are working on Sovryn has grown so fast. It's been crazy. And they're working on so many really interesting things. But I myself am going to be speaking at an event called Reimagine 2021 on the 15th of January, I think. So if some of what I said sounded interesting, maybe I'll manage to say interesting things there as well. But more than plugging me, I mean, I'm just a dude, right? Sovryn is potentially, a new way for us to conquer new territory for freedom for all of us. And so I hope I'm involved in building something useful and that people will use.
Yeah, really, really cool. I love the idea that you're going back to the whole merge mining idea. Namecoin was the first sort of merge miner of Bitcoin, and it's nice to see that concept back. I think RSK is also a merge mine, if I'm correct. It's like a side chain. So there's a few projects merge mining, and I think it's beautiful to take all that work that's being done. How many miners are actually merge mining? Now before we go,
more than half, sometimes as much as about 75% of the Bitcoin proof of work is pointed.
Wow, great, fantastic. Well, I'm really looking forward to check it out.
Awesome. All right, thanks everybody. Thanks Edan for joining us today. We hope to have you back on next time. Maybe there will be more, violence. We need a little bit of things to spice things up. All right, maybe no violence. I'm just kidding. All right, thanks everybody for listening to the Tatiana Show. If you want the softer side of crypto, you can check out proofoflovecast.com and listen to us talk about all sorts of stuff. We have an ED series that we're doing right now. Not that any of the men listening to the show have ever experienced that, but anyway, a bunch of funny topics for Proof of Love as well. So see you later. Bye. Thank you. Happy New Year.
The Tatiana Show has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond. What's the point of all this technology without a little love in our lives? Our hosts, Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz, have come together to bring you Proof of Love. Go to proofoflovecast.com. Hey there, it's time for the show. The Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. We gotta think and reflect and use lots of intellect with our hearts when we work together. I know that it can be so hard out there, looking all around and saying that life ain't fair. So that is why we will fight and stay up late at night, listening to the Tatiana Show. Thank you for listening to The Tatiana Show. Please follow us on Twitter at Queen Tatiana or on Facebook and Instagram at Tatiana Moroz Music. More episodes can be found at thetatianashow.com, and make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. You are listening to The Tatiana Show. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on The Tatiana Show is intended as financial advice, legal advice, or really anything other than entertainment. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're listening to us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on or of any sponsors or any affiliate products you may hear about on this show.